So a couple topics that we wanted to talk about today, which the first one was we had one of our agents ask, well, I have a buyer or have buyers that have been looking at a lot of homes for many months, and they've looked at a lot of homes, and they have yet to basically make an offer or commit to making an offer on a home. So what's my recommendation on if you're a buyer that's been looking for 6 months, a year, 2 years, and haven't found a home or whatever? So there's a couple things. One, we're in a market right now that's very much a seller's market, meaning that there's not a lot of buyers, or I should say, not a lot of sellers selling their home, but there are a lot of buyers. So you're probably one of many buyers out there looking for homes. So what you're finding is as a home comes on the market, there's a good chance that it's going off quickly, which gets frustrating because you're in a multiple offer situation. But the worst thing to do is I don't want to say settle for anything, but if you're overly particular, meaning you have a list of like 10 things that you really want in a home, the odds that that's going to happen are very slim. So depending on how quickly you want to move, you might have to, compromise on a couple and then find out your main ones. Okay. Is it in the area we want? Is it roughly in the price range we want? Does it have the bedrooms we want and the size we want? And we okay with the layout? To me, that's number one. Now, if it has a little bit less land, maybe it doesn't have a garage, maybe the garage isn't attached, maybe it doesn't have a finished basement, but you could finish it off, or, a whole host of things that you could do in time, you may have to compromise on them knowing the market that we're in, and you may have to, plan on doing some improvements or things, next year or 5 years down the road. What I find for a lot of people is they get too specific, and then every home they get into it's never worth that much. And the problem is when people start having that mindset where every home they look at is overpriced, that's a very bad mindset to have going into a home. So my suggestion again too is, especially if you've seen a lot of homes, you know where the homes roughly are on the market, meaning is the home overpriced? Is it roughly in the correct price or in the ballpark? It could be a little overpriced, but that's relative in the sense that, or subjective in the sense how much do you value the home? If you're automatically just assuming every seller is 10 to 15% over market value, you'll never get a home, because that's definitely not the case right now. There are some that are. There's some that go within days. I just had one that we put our office put on like 4 days ago, and I had it under contract over the weekend.
Holy cow.
But the thing was it overpriced? I showed it to one client, they thought so. I showed it to the next client, they paid full price for it. So again, it's very subjective, but it's you're in the situation where not every home is going to be overpriced. Like you got to kind of pick and choose. And I think if you go in with that mindset, you could be in for a long ride. Now, if you're an agent doing that, you do have to stress to the buyer that, hey guys, we're not in a market where we can really be super picky. We got to, we have our price. We're qualified up to $180,000. Let's make sure that if we're looking at homes under $180,000, we know we can make an offer and financially we can pull it off. Now it's just a matter of, do you like the home? If you're like, well, I like the home, but it's only worth $150. Well, who's to say it's worth $150 or $160? That's really for you and the seller to decide. So if you always think that it's low, well, what's going to happen? The seller's like, I don't believe that. And then sure enough, a week later, 2 weeks later, an offer comes in, $5,000 under, $10,000 under the purchase price, and they sell it. And then you lose out another home, because it's like, I think people get a little too picky.
Yeah.
They get too, every home has to be perfect, which is never the case, because if you were to buy a perfect home, that's called building a home. It's kind of like if you go to buy, if you're going to a consignment shop, is the clothes going to be the same as if you bought it brand new off of a rack? If you go to buy a used car, is it the same as buying a used car? No, there's going to be some deficiencies to it. Now, buying a home that's 20 years old, there's going to be some deficiencies versus a home that's brand new, because it's been lived in for 20 years. So I think people also have to have that mindset that it's not going to be a perfect home. You're not going to walk in and not have to touch a thing. It does happen. There's some homes like that. But a lot of people, if you're looking to, depending on the price range, if you're looking at 120, 130, 150, 180, there's work to be done. I would say the homes that are completely turnkey, you're probably talking in the 2s, in the 3s, and that depends too on square footage. You could have 150. You can have a 1,200 square foot home for 150 or 160. That's turnkey. That's possible. You're not going to have a 2,500 square foot home for 150. That's turnkey. Not going to happen.
Yeah.
You know, you'll have a $250,000 home like that potentially, but I think that's where people really got to kind of have the priorities set a little bit more straight, and then the agent has to do their job of trying to convey that to the buyer. Sometimes that's easier said than done, because sometimes buyers, you know, they're just stuck in their train of thought, and we have to, you know, obviously kind of handle it with kid gloves depending on who the person is. But at the end of the day, in the market that we're in, if you're a buyer, just know that going in, a lot of these homes are priced fairly well. If they're overpriced, then guess what? Wait a month or 2 months and wait for them to start dropping the price. You're not going to roll in on the first week of the home coming on the market and being like, oh, I'm going to get $20,000 off the purchase price. They're overpriced. So I'm like, well, calm down. They're going to leave it on the market for another month or two and let people come through before they really start dropping. I mean, they can do a lot smaller reductions than a $20,000 price reduction.
Yeah.
So I run into that a lot too, where people just think that the price is going to be overpriced. It's not the case, not all the time. And if it is, you know, just hold on, stick to your guns, wait till 2-3 months come along and they start dropping the price, and then come back to it when you think that it's at a fair price. But again, I think that's a tough strategy to use if you're really trying to bank on that.
Yeah.
The other thing I tell a lot of buyers too is, even if you thought you overpaid by $5,000 to $10,000 and you're going to live there for 10 to 15 years, 20 years, are you really going to think that, man, I spent an extra $5,000 on the home that I don't think I should have spent? No, because I'm hopefully in 10, 15, 20 years, the price has gone way up over $10,000 on that property, and you're going to just make your money back anyway. So I try to have people use kind of a long-term mindset, not a mindset that like I'm losing money in the first week of, or, you know, buying the home, I'm losing money. Like, give it a chance. You're not just going to turn around and flip it tomorrow. And if you are, then we really should be looking at exactly what you're doing. Is it the right time to buy, knowing that you're going to try to sell with almost little to no equity in the property?
Yeah.
I know that's probably something you haven't run into a lot, but
Not
you
yet.
will. So this is a teaching moment for Ellie. But I think, you know, people out there, buyers, pay attention to that. Agents, pay attention to that. I think it's all good stuff. So